Heart to Heart. Real people having real conversations about things that matter most to you. I'm Sherry Elise.
I'm Cyrus Webb.
I'm Rich Oseguera.
I'm Patrice Tanaka.
And we are Heart to Heart.
Hello. Welcome to Heart to Heart. You guys have tuned in for our season finale, and we have a super special episode for you today. Before we get into that, say hello if you are watching with us live. If you're watching the replay, say hello as well. Thank you so much for being here today with us. Heart to Heart is an interactive talk show where you choose the question, but today is going to be a little bit different. What I want to go ahead and first and share with you is my deep gratitude. We started this show last year, the idea for it, when the George Floyd murder happened. And it was really a time for deep reflection with the pandemic and the political divisiveness, that I really understood that people weren't having conversations that we really needed to be having. Not only were we not speaking a lot of our truths, but we also weren't listening to each other. So I went to my good friend and our executive producer and co-host Cyrus Webb, and I brought him this idea about it. And long story short, Heart to Heart was born. And so I just want to say thank you for being here along with this ride with us, for submitting your questions. And I want to thank my very special team that is here with us today to celebrate this milestone. Hello, Heart to Heart team.
Hey.
So good to be here with you guys today.
I know. Season finale. 26 shows. Can you believe that?
So insane.
Yeah.
Move over, friends.
Hello, Cody. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Thank you all. So today, on today's show, we're going to just be sharing some of our favorite moments, our favorite episodes from this season, the questions that you sent in and that really had the most impact on us in one way or another. And we'd also like to find out from you guys what has been your favorite moment or episode from this season. So without further ado, let's dive in, because it has been fun. It has been, all over the place, what we have been through in the last 6 months, to be honest, from the world happenings to just our own personal lives. So let's start with you, Cyrus.
It's interesting. The show, when we were talking about this last week, the show that really stood out to me was the one where the question came in about change being so hard. Why is change the hardest and scariest thing to do? And I think with that, it's like, even all of us, I think, in what we do, as much as we've been evolving, it's still not easy, right? I mean, it's not easy to make adjustments. We're talking about, moving to another job or another location, as a lot of us have done. And even when it comes to relationships, right? But I really appreciated that question, and the thoughts about it. It stuck with me because it shows that even though it may be difficult, change is a necessary thing. I mean, we all go through it. And that's one of the big things that really stood out to me in that particular show and with that question.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that episode as well, because what I enjoy about all the episodes specifically is that we all, while we share a lot of the same, thoughts and opinions, we each come to it from our own perspective. Like, I know Rich, shares a lot about mindset, and, I come more from a lot of times from the emotional space. I mean, we all do, but that show specifically, I really enjoyed it as well, because I think we all really shared from our hearts about why that is so hard, and really gave some good tips to those who are watching.
Yeah, I agree. That was one of my favorite shows as well. And Cyrus, you said something that was very profound too, as part of that show. In fact, I listened to that whole episode again in trying to decide my favorite show. And you said that, things that we want are on the other side of fear. If we have the courage to change, to do something different, to move forward. And I thought that was beautiful, because it's so true, right? Unless we really push ourselves to go for more, to do more than we think we can. Sometimes, oftentimes we find that we can if we just push through, right, and move beyond our fear. And anyway, so I love that episode too.
Yeah. David says change is necessary. This is powerful when we embrace it. And I totally agree, David. It's one of those things, again, it's necessary, it's hard, but it definitely can bring a lot of joy.
Yeah. And Sherry and I both talked about the idea that change doesn't have to be in one big bite, right? It can be in small incremental bites that ultimately become one big bite, at the end of the day. But so if we kind of break it down into smaller pieces and parts and just do one thing every day, it's amazing how far we can move forward, in a month or 6 months or in a year.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that's what usually stops us, right? Is the idea of how far we have to go, how much we have to do. And when you think about it in those giant chunks, I mean, there are a lot of things in the past that I did not do because I was like, oh, that's too much. But when you're able to, as we spoke about on the show, break that down and, maybe today I'm going to write that email. Tomorrow I'm going to, add a minute to my walk or whatever that is. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Little nibbles.
Yeah. Or tomorrow I'm going to send that email.
Right. And I was just thinking how so often we just don't even realize the changes that we make. We have changes all the time happening. And sometimes we're just not even aware. So sometimes you get someplace and you look back and like, wow, I just didn't even see that thing happening. Like losing weight, for example, you're making these small changes. You don't realize, what other people are seeing. And then you look back and like, wow, I did come a long way. So, change is just like a really cool thing in this life.
Yeah. Awesome. And we talked a lot about change and fear, like they're both so intertwined. Mm-hmm. And I love the idea of practice being fearless, right? Every day you practice by doing something small acts of courage that help to kind of build that muscle. Because I really think being fearless is like a muscle that you build and you work at every day. And soon being fearless, living your life fearlessly that's the way I live my life, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love it, David. Says, thank you all for doing this. It's soul enriching content. Welcome to the show. Happy to have you here. He's actually one of the executive team for the TEDx that I'm doing in September.
Awesome.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, well, just to put an end cap on this, because I know we have to move on to the other questions. I think that's what that timer was that we heard go off. But speaking of mindset, Patrice, you just made me think something. So many people have change and fear collapsed, as you were saying, and that's a mindset, right? That's a view. And what if, riffing on your world and Sherry's, what if change was joyful? Like, what if that was happening?
Yeah.
That would shift everything instead of, oh my God, change is so awful and heavy and hard. It is because you say so, right?
Right.
Right. That's all I had to say.
Awesome. Love it.
Yeah.
All right, Tracy, our amazing producer, why don't you share with us what your favorite episode was?
Oh boy. Well, my favorite episode is from one of my favorite people, Mr. Jamie Oler, and I'm going to say his last name because he doesn't mind. But how can we better serve our communities? And I love the discussion that we had on that because, Jamie comes from this space of serve, care, inspire. And, on that show, my goodness, there were so many good comments and feedback and action steps that everybody gave in terms of, helping people to understand how we can better serve our communities. So it was a really great show, being able to help the communities, especially during these difficult times. The pandemic hit and Jamie just stepped up his game with, okay, look, these businesses still need to have exposure. So he came from that business standpoint of, making sure that businesses were able to get some help you know. I mean, really, it was scary, you know, and even in the digital space as a business person myself, it was a challenge, but we were happy to go ahead and like create images and help people get out into the community and going live. So this is like a big thing for Jamie. He always advocates about going live for businesses. So that was my favorite. What we're doing is all in alignment, and I just love it.
It was interesting. I was actually sick that day, so I didn't get to be a part of it. But I was watching though, and I was it was one of my favorite episodes, even though I wasn't in it. But I loved it though. I loved it because you had really reminded me of the small things that we can do to help businesses, like, you know, even just putting like a Yelp review, like, you know, filming from a restaurant or something, talking about the great food. Like there were so many different ways that we can help businesses, and, you know, helping communities specifically. You know, I like I said, I didn't have a chance to share, and I really find becoming a part of it, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, during the Black Lives Matter protest and stuff here, like when I started protesting with them, like I became part of our community here, and I'd never done anything like that. And so being able to show up almost every day for 2 months with them, like, and being able to add my voice in whatever way that I can, and to be able to listen, to be able to serve in that way, it was one of the most fulfilling things that I've ever done. So I think, you know, just listening, being a part of, like, as you guys said, helping the businesses. I mean, there's so many ways that we can all come together. So it was a great show, guys.
Yeah.
Well, and just to combine this question with the last one, speaking of change, you know, you and being of service in our communities, look what happened as a result of people showing up in communities across the country, around the world, to raise their voices about equality and Black Lives Matter and fighting racism. Look what happened in George Floyd's case. With the sentencing of Derek Chauvin, right? Like, that probably wouldn't have happened. He would have gotten away. It wouldn't have been focused on if people didn't rise up and in their communities, to be a part of their communities and to voice their concern and their upset, to create movement, right? So I think, you know, these two things actually go hand in hand now that we're talking about it like this.
All right. So I think that's now, as Rich brought it out, I would have known. I think that's our alarm to move on to the next one. So Cyrus, welcome back.
Yeah.
Not that I just brought attention to you.
I'm definitely having flashbacks, Sherry, of my first episode too.
Yes. It's funny because that was actually going to be my lead-in for Patrice to talk about her favorite episode, because it brings us right back to the beginning where we kept losing Cyrus and, you know, stressed out over here.
Deja vu.
I know, right? I know.
Love to hear from you, Patrice, one of your favorite episodes.
Yeah, well, apart from the one that we just discussed that Cyrus brought up, I love the premiere episode because it was just full of joy and optimism and hope, and, you know, looking forward to the new year, to 2021. And I love what Sherry said is the reason that she came up with this idea for Heart to Heart. She said that there were a lot of conversations that were not happening, and a lot of things were unearthed post George Floyd, and that we needed to have these difficult conversations that were not being had, and that she wanted to bring together brave and courageous souls willing to talk about things that may not be easy to talk about. And that's what our show has really been. And in that episode, Rich said, it's time to have civil discourse. And I think we all, agreed with the truth of that statement. And the thing that struck me in looking back and watching that show was, I really didn't know any of you except for Cyrus. And I was struck by Sherry, who Cyrus interviewed in that segment, who talked about how as a young girl, I think 7 years old, she had to testify against someone who had abused her. And in doing that, she found how telling the truth and being honest and vulnerable and transparent can help other people, help us to heal ourselves and to heal the world. And I thought that was just so amazing. And so I think that really kind of set the tone for what we all hoped, that Heart to Heart would be. It's been healing for all of us. It's been inspiring. It's given us a lot of hope and optimism. And we hope that we've shared that with the audience. And we hope that in the process of having these conversations, it's added to the healing that this country really needs to go through.
Yeah. I definitely mirror what Patrice says. I think the reason why this show is here and why we were able to get through these episodes without becoming a soundbite for somebody else's show is because I think Sherry really set the stage for it with that very first episode. And I think in bringing people together who really didn't know each other, it shows what's possible in the world, right? I mean, none of us had worked together before really in this capacity. So I think, what we've been able to do week after week, and then in bringing the audience in really shows what's possible. So kudos to Sherry for that.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's weird saying thank you because I wouldn't have been able to be able to create this without you guys. And it was so important for me to bring together different backgrounds and different mindsets and different experiences in life and not just like the obvious, like, we're different races, we're different cultures, we're different, sexualities, we're different genders, we're all of that. But to be able to, what the first episode showed people is that, and actually everyone afterwards, is that we can have these different opinions, but we could still speak about it respectfully. I know this is not one that is one of our favorites, but even talking about the vaccine, we had different ideas and different thoughts about it. But through all of them, we were able to have this discourse, as you said, and for it to be respectful. And so I just really am grateful for not only you guys, but everyone that has shown up and sent in their questions and were vulnerable enough to do that. So I don't know. I loved the first one too. And actually, didn't after the first one, that was when the insurrection happened?
Yeah. Actually, while we were on the air, it was happening while we were on the air.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Way to kick it off.
Yeah. My mom here, thanks Mom for being here. She says best of everything on your season finale, looking ahead to the next season. So we will talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an interesting, go ahead, Tracy.
No, I just want to say that I'm super grateful. Like when you had this idea, I love unique things. And so I thought it was pretty unique to say, okay, we won't reveal the question until the show. And it was like, from a marketing standpoint, I was like, okay, how am I going to do that? But, it's worked out. I think that it's been a lot of fun. And, like Patrice said, we didn't really know each other, but it didn't take long to gel. And I think it's just such a beautiful thing that you had the wherewithal, the spirit, whatever you want to call it, for you, Sherry, to say, hey, Cyrus, Tracy, Rich, Patrice, let's all do this. And here we are after 25 shows every week. And it's just been a blast. So I thank you. I thank all of you for being a part of my life.
Tracy's doing both. Tracy's a multitasker. Yeah, and if you guys, I want to bounce off of what Tracy said about the marketing aspect. It's really been fun. It was really an interesting conversation because poor Tracy, is trying to do her best from a marketing standpoint to be able to share with people what the show is going to be about, but we never knew from week to week. So we went through different iterations of how are we going to do that. So it's been a fun social experiment or marketing experiment to go through this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Has everybody shared except for me?
Rich.
Oh, Rich, go ahead.
Yeah.
Rich, share with us.
I have to be invited to
Yes, I know.
somehow
I
that
led
became
you,
a
I led
thing.
you there.
Well, I first want to just say, and echo everyone else's sentiments about the honor it is to be a part of this show and part of this team and to create something that truly is from our hearts. designed to help other people's hearts in a very literal way. So it's been a joy, and I'm going to be sad every Wednesday morning. I might just come sit here and look in my camera. Not a stretch, but you know.
Yeah.
So my favorite episode, there were so many, and Sherry, I'm not going to mention yours. I'll let you. But that was also one of my favorites. So we'll find out what Sherry's was in a minute. But how do we collectively fight against corrupt judicial systems? That one really resonated with me because it's so relevant to what we've been experiencing, especially over the last year. However, it's not new, right? This is from the inception of this country. One could argue it was even built on a corrupt, what became a corrupt system, if you're not white. So Sherry, you were a guest on my show, my previous show, The Divine Urge, and that's when we started talking about George Floyd, and that was not what either of us were about. That wasn't something we put ourselves out talking about, racism, and it was very uncomfortable for me to even say Black or African American out loud. Like I couldn't even say those words out loud, strangely, because I didn't ever have to until we started speaking up about it. And I remember you coming on to my show and being so passionate and vocal, and then that led to creating this show. And I just want to honor you for stepping up and stepping out and being an example of exactly what the answer is to that question. How do we change the systems in our country that aren't fair for all? And it is by speaking up. It is by putting ourselves out there. It is by sharing our heart. And being visible and vocal, and that's not comfortable for a lot of people. And it doesn't mean that we are angry, bitter, people, which is some perceptions that I see that people have of those who stand on street corners and carry the banners and wave the flags. Right? It's just that we're passionate about having fairness, and the thing that it takes for changing these systems is people stepping up and getting uncomfortable and voicing their opinions, but also being a part of solutions. And I think I said in that particular episode, it's not enough just to be outraged and emoji and hide behind social media. We need to actually take it a step further, whatever that next step may be, right? It's easy to hide on social media. It's a little harder to actually make a donation to an organization that's fighting for a cause you care about, whatever it is, whether it's saving whales or, saving, dying kids in Africa, like whatever it is, you got to put your money where your mouth is. And that's what we talked about on that episode. And I know we talked about being a part of the political system, not just watching politics passively. This last year, we've all been captive in our homes. I think part of why things went the way they did in the George Floyd murder case is that we were all at home. We watched it on TV. We were able to get out and stand on street corners and do our part because we weren't having to go to work in our offices. And now that's changing, right? We're going back to whatever normal means. We're not captive in our homes for the most part. And so now it's the true test is how do we stay active? How do we keep these causes that we care about front and center? Because we're not passively watching anymore. And so right now, I just want to use this moment as a call to action for anyone who sees this episode. This is really where we step it up. Find a thing that you care about, and if you care about the judicial system, which everyone should, then do you know who your elected officials are? I did a quick search before the show just to prove how easy it is. I said, who's my elected official to the Google? And I got a whole list of links, and I clicked on one, and it's bipartisan. So this is not, a partisan statement. This is whatever you care about, whatever you believe in. Do you care enough to take that next action and to find out who your representatives are? What are their voting records? What do they stand for? Are you in alignment with what they're putting out there and the laws that they're going to create? And if not, vote and care and get involved, volunteer, do something. This is how we change the system. And we can't just sit and be angry and then not do something about making a difference in our systems. It's right there. Google it.
So we gotta, it's Rich, thank you. I know Rich is super passionate about this. Yes, no, I mean, absolutely. It was a great show. Again, I didn't have an opportunity to be on that because I was feeling ill, but speaking up is the most important thing. That is how we do that and doing something about it. So thank you, Rich, about that. I want to share before we end my favorite episode. And this was a shocking one for all of us, which is why I'm saving it to the end, because it was the one episode that we did not want to talk about. How can menopause be managed without depression? Oh my God. So we had gotten this along the way and all of us were like, how are we going to talk about this? And the reason why it ended up being my favorite episode is, number one, because we didn't want to talk about it, but number two, because this was the reason, besides like racism and those topics, but these are the things that we all should be able to just talk about. We're human beings. And Patrice brought such this beautiful wisdom to it of the elders that I loved, that I hadn't thought about before. Cyrus talked about his mom, and what she was going through. I don't even remember what I talked about. I was just so moved by everything, but it was really a great episode because we talked about periods. Rich talked about the organization that supports the girls and everything, and it was really just about having these uncomfortable conversations that at the end of the day shouldn't be uncomfortable. And that's what this show is about. It's about bringing things to the forefront, bringing things to the light, being able to share and to talk and to heal and to hold and to being able to resolve by just communicating with each other. Yes, Tracy.
No, I was just gonna let you know. For me, being the one to pull the questions, in case the audience doesn't understand, each week I would pull 3 questions, and it was always interesting when that one would pop up. And so it was so exciting when it finally came because it was the one that everybody was like, no.
Absolutely. You guys, it has been an amazing time together, an amazing season together. And again, we just want to thank you all for being a part of this, for sending in your topics and your questions and being here with us to share with us what's on your heart. I want to just do really quickly around. I want everyone to just share one final thought, a quickie right now, because we got less than a minute. Something that you just want to leave with our viewers today.
Definitely be
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know you could call this. I was just going to say, be
literally what we say at the end of every show: take care of your heart, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Do it.
Patrice, any final thoughts?
Yeah. One of the things that we did in Cyrus's pick for my favorite show was when I asked everyone to talk about what they loved and adored about each and every one of us. So I think that's a great way to kind of share with the people that you're engaged with, and even new people, what is it that you treasure and admire, love and adore about them. And,
Beautiful.
Don't wait until eulogy time. So do it now.
Thank you. Tracy.
I just want to say, excuse me, thank you. Thank you to everybody that's been watching, tuning in, and just continue to show gratitude in everything. Find the good in everything.
And my last thoughts is, and I will say this till the day I die, be gentle with yourself, be good to yourself, be kind with yourself. We're all, going through our own challenges and stuff. And the more gentle and loving that you can be as you traverse through this life, the more joy-filled your life will be. So we want to thank you all for being here, a part of us. Stay connected with us here on Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, to be able to know when season 2 will begin again. And on behalf of Cyrus, who's not here, thanks. Cyrus says thank you. And he just says keep working hard and be successful, because that's what he does day in and day out. To my team, I love you guys. Thank you all for being here, and stay tuned for season 2. Have a wonderful.
Thank you.
Aloha,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Shelly, Rich, Tracy, Cyrus.